The concept of the soft landing, getting into an ice age, has been introduced in the previous video, the sun speaking of ice ages. When the next ice age begins, it begins rapidly and with enormous climate transformations. In climate terms, the ice age transition is comparable to a person falling off a cliff. Such a fall is survivable only when a soft landing has been prepared for it. In climate terms, the big soft landing that supports 7 billion people, if it happens, means that a vast new world has been created aforetime, located in the tropics, complete with high-technology agricultures that the ice age cannot affect. The soft landing also requires that the New World infrastructures are fully operational at the stage when the ice age actually happens, which happens potentially in the 2050s. And more than that, we need this soft landing infrastructure operational to some degree already during the boundary zone towards the fall ice age, when the present agriculture begins to collapse around the world under the weight of the ongoing climate collapse. This will likely happen within 5 to 15 years. Australia has already lost half of its wheat production capacity in only 2 growing seasons due to the collapse of the climate, as climate stability is fast becoming history. The American wheat belt is likewise becoming adversely affected, such as by winter-type blizzards occurring in April that delay planting and reduce crop yields, and so on, as the earth as a whole is getting colder. In the Canadian wheat belt, for another example, the growing seasons are naturally short, just barely long enough for the crops to ripen. The near climate collapse promises to have devastating consequences here in possibly 5 to 15 years. Without a soft landing prepared for Canada, and this being inoperational, Canada will likely cease to exist. It will crash into oblivion without a functional food production infrastructure. Humanity needs a soft landing prepared for this fast, as its global food production has already begun to diminish under the now ongoing climate collapse and its related effects. Of course, building a new world on the required scale is more easily said than done. It won't be a cakewalk for humanity to build itself a new world in the tropics with vast new technological infrastructures for agriculture and water resources, and all this being built big enough to nourish upwards to 7 billion people that the world's present agriculture supports. Most of the new agriculture will have to be laid afloat across the equatorial seas for the lack of suitable land in the tropics. Floating modules are also ideal for their suitability for automated large-scale industrial production for it. In fact, the building of the required large-scale projects in time will be impossible without efficient, large-scale, automated production methods, especially now that we have so little time remaining to do it. Humanity has lost 45 years in idleness under the man-made global warming hoax that has prevented humanity from getting the soft landing building project started. In spite of it all, I think humanity will nevertheless get the life-preserving project built, because nothing else makes any sense. To do nothing and accept death by starvation is not something that an intelligent people like humanity would opt for, other than by deep deception. And that's where the problem is rooted. Deception is rampant in our modern world. The oligarchy of empires and their underlings are crying for the very thing that the soft landing project is designed to prevent. The masters of empire, whoever they are crying for the mass depopulation of the world, and not to save it. They are working hard towards depopulation with all the means they have available to achieve it. Their doctrine is being implemented in ever more forms. Under the doctrine, the optimum population of the Earth is a mere 1 billion people. The call is for 6 billion people to be eliminated from the face of the Earth. The depopulation doctrine goes way back in time. It started with the royal think tank termed the Optimum Population Trust, which has been renamed in 2011 to Population Matters. Surprisingly, the long-promoted depopulation doctrine is more widely accepted now in society than one might expect. For example, back in 1999, while I was waiting for a friend outside a shopping mall, on a bench sitting in the sunshine, a middle-aged lady joined me and sighed in conversation. "You know," she said, "there are too many people in the world. Our biggest problem is that there are too many people everywhere." Earlier in time, in the USA, depopulation became a foreign policy in 1974. The Third World depopulation became formally declared a U.S. foreign policy, spelled out in 1974 with the then still secret National Security Study Memorandum 200, authored by Sir Kissinger, a high-ranking official of the American government who was knighted by the Queen of England. The depopulation of Third World nations became policy under the National Security Study Memorandum 200 doctrine. At this same time, also in 1974, the man-made global warming doctrine was invented, which still blocks humanity from building itself the life-preserving ice age, soft landing infrastructures. Both doctrines are deceptions, of course, for a purpose, to preserve the system of empire. Thank God we are a 7 billion world population nevertheless, which gives us the productive basis that is needed for building the Ice Age soft landing project. Our 7 billion world population also gives us the capacity to build the soft landing project as a sideline project, because in the real world, life goes on as it must. Whatever additional requirements must be fulfilled for the soft landing project must be generated by upgrading economics. We cannot let the normal living of humanity fall by the wayside. For the soft landing project, both must be pursued vigorously. None can be dropped. This means that we are required to do what has never been done before. It also means that this must succeed, in spite of the most formidable opposition against it by the masters of empire. Am I expecting miracles? Let's put aside the notion of miracles. The soft landing project can be done. The materials, energy resources, and technology for it all exist. Why not use the resources that we have and live? The present inclination in society, imposed by the system of empire, is to throw in the towel and choose to die, which is the result of doing nothing. But this imposed state doesn't make any sense anymore. Humanity is growing out of this imposed role as the weak prey of empire. Thus I think that a soft landing project will be done. It will be done not because that without the soft landing infrastructures becoming built, humanity crashes to the near zero population mark. It will be done instead because the growing dementia in politics, which is rampant in the Western world, is inherent in the system of empire, not in humanity. Extinction by starvation, which is the path of empire, is not a path that a free human being wants to go. That's why the soft landing project will be built. The insanity of worldwide depopulation doesn't ring well anymore, including the insanity of the rest of the system of empire. The house of empire is falling down. Humanity has moved ahead. Here lies our hope. Humanity wants their families and their children to live, not to starve to death in 15 years or die in wars sooner. The building of the Ice Age soft landing project can prevent this. But which world leader has put the spade into the ground, so to speak, to get the project started? No one has. The field is empty. Global food security isn't an issue yet at the level of the world's leadership. The strategic defense of food for humanity, to rescue humanity from starvation, is not on the agenda anywhere in our small-minded world of power politics. Not sufficient concern for humanity having a future exists in today's society and in the political world to inspire actions. The concept of a future that is not a given but must be created has been pushed off the table. No one speaks of an ice age anymore. The world is trapped into ice age denial. Instead, the world's politics are latched onto inconsequential issues rather than on building a world to live in when the ice age begins. This means that society and its politics need to be uplifted together And that's the task of society itself. With this in mind, let's count the Near Ice Age as an incentive by the universe to get the world out of its rut and to come alive again as human beings. The gift of the universe, the gift of the Near Ice Age, may well be humanity's final lifeline. This gift will be a lifeline if it is responded to, because without humanity responding to it, nothing will be done to secure humanity's future. While the Earth's climate is in the hands of the sun and what affects it, our future as humanity is nevertheless in our hands. This means for us all to get out of the easy chair and start living, and to raise us up beyond the default dynamics. Without humanity responding to the Ice Age dynamics and building itself a new world for its soft landing, the world will be drawn by the default dynamic into a nuclear war, sooner or later, by the hands of the ruling forces of empire that presently wield great influence, power, and great insanity. On the default plane, sooner or later, nuclear war will be accepted by humanity. The policy of limited nuclear war with low-yield warheads is already being contemplated as a strategy for wider wars, and these wider wars are already being set up. On February 21st, NATO launched an extensive military exercise near the borders of Russia, involving Kosovo, Latvia, Croatia, Serbia, Bosnia, Lithuania, Slovenia, and others. It will likely be the largest-scale military exercise of the last 25 years, with 37,000 soldiers participating from 13 countries, including 20,000 from the USA, equipped with 85 Abrams tanks, 45 armored personnel carriers, heavy machine guns, and mortars. The official game plan is to defend Europe against a hypothetical Russian invasion. A high-level Russian official commented, "The USA is planning a full-scale hybrid war against the Russian Federation and China." What a dangerous game is unfolding here, with the potential of going nuclear. And all this with a horrendous waste of manpower and physical resources put into the game. Shouldn't society instead focus on living and on building the Ice Age soft landing infrastructures on which its global existence will depend in less than 20 years? Shouldn't the glaring lack of responsibility with the focus on war make the Ice Age soft landing issue the number one issue in all political election campaigns? It should be noted that war madness does not reflect the native state of our humanity, but reflects the insanity of empire, where the native humanity of a human being has been pushed far out of sight. Empire, war, insanity, depopulation is one, and the name of it is empire. Whatever is latched on to empire represents all of these aspects by default or by recruitment or by induction, while the systems of empire go far back in history, represented by the lion who is feeding on the weak, the void of humanity in the tapestry of humanity's self-recognition, which creates the weakness, has not yet been healed. A free human being, in contrast, represents the native humanity of a human being that is expressed in building, in creating, and in developing one another. Those who are breathing the free air become discoverers, builders, and achievers in liberating processes. To such persons, the building of the Ice Age soft landing infrastructures appears not as an impossible dream, but as a natural step forward and an exciting one to be a part of in a process of stepping beyond limits. At the present stage, on the default plane, in the face of the rampant escalation of political insanity, nuclear war cannot be avoided. It can only be avoided by humanity uplifting itself to its native humanist platform, where the systems of empire that orchestrate war and demand depopulation are obsolete. In a humanist world, insanity inspires no one. Thus it falls by the wayside. The Ice Age soft landing imperative appears to be the only platform that is large enough to be able to drive the process of humanity lifting itself far out of the reach of empire and its stooges. When the self-uplifting of humanity succeeds and the great Ice Age soft landing project unfolds, when war and nuclear war has become obsolete in the flow of humanity breathing the free air again, then we experience the power of humanist progress. When the operating platform of humanity becomes uplifted to ever higher levels in society's self-recognition, empires who beg for society's compliance no longer have a stand to exist, and this humanist uplift could happen quickly. Of course, the building of the new humanist world does need to happen quickly in order to get the Ice Age soft landing project started, which has been delayed for far too long. The building needs to begin quickly, also for political reasons. On the political front, as is ever more evident, the war criers are becoming more restless. In today's economically collapsing empire-focused world, large-scale conventional wars are too expensive to conduct. Nuclear war becomes an attractive choice then. If this is allowed to happen, the richly prepared for nuclear war will leave in its wake a burned-out planet with no human voice ever to be heard, an empty planet poisoned with radiation for millions of years to come. We can get out of this trap by accepting the gift of the universe, the next Ice Age, and focus our efforts on living through it and in grand style. This has become so critical that it should be the number one campaign issue for all presidential elections. An issue as big as to be or not to be should not be swept under the rug. And maybe it appears evermore the issue won't be swept under the rug for much longer. It appears that the universe is aiding us on this front. The universe is progressive, and so is its effect on life and intelligence. We stand today as a highly developed, highly technologically advanced species with the capability and the resources at hand to build us the needed Ice Age soft landing infrastructures, and to do it with relatively ease. This makes us, humanity, the first species in the history of life that has developed itself fully capable to live undiminished in Ice Age environments. So why should we let the universe down that protects and advances life on all levels? Chances are actually quite good that the Ice Age issue will become an election issue in the near future, because, as the Sun would say, we live in opportune times. With the solar cosmic ray flux now increasing, as has been measured by the Ulysses spacecraft, and is still being measured by neutron monitor stations on the ground, we may see the beginning of a cosmic ray-nourished cultural awakening in society happening that the system of empires cannot deal with and already ties itself into knots over. Cosmic rays do affect us, but by them being mostly protons, which are electrically charged, they flow right through us, more than 50,000 a day. However, by being electrically charged, the cosmic ray particles do generate minute electric currents in our tissues by induction, which appears to be beneficial for our neurological system that operates in part electrically. It is a fact of history that many of the great cultural achievements, such as the development of written languages, the dawn of Christianity, of Islam, and of the Golden Renaissance, has occurred during the cosmic ray-rich times. The development of humanity as a whole, which occurred during the last 2 million years of the Pleistocene ice ages, may well be the product of the extraordinary high volume of cosmic ray flux that occurs during the Ice Age glaciation periods. As soon as the Sun hibernates, it emits larger volumes of cosmic ray flux, because the hibernating Sun has no plasma shield around it. This means that the full volume of the solar cosmic ray flux then impacts the Earth. The evidence that this is the case is found in ice core records in the form of high ratios of beryllium-10 during the last glacial period. The high ratio is produced in the atmosphere by cosmic ray interaction with it. The high ratios are also measured evidence of the unshielded hibernating Sun. It is also a fact of history that we are coming back again into the cosmic ray-rich times. The increase in cosmic ray density is expected during the boundary zone to the next ice age. The Ulysses spacecraft had measured the beginning of it. It saw it increasing. It saw it increasing at the rate of 20% per decade. This means that we can reasonably expect the Ice Age issue, which is the biggest issue of our time because of the need for a soft landing, to become the #1 election issue in many nations around the world in the near future, and that we can expect the champions of it to win big time, even to become secure presidents by it, who, working together with other nations, can get the New World Ice Age soft landing project underway cooperatively with the participation of the whole of humanity. The Ice Age soft landing issue will then also become the #1 issue at the United Nations Security Council, that Russia, China, and the USA are permanent members of, together with France and the United Kingdom. Once the awareness of the need for an Ice Age soft landing reaches these levels, the Ice Age soft landing project becomes unstoppable, and the future of humanity becomes thereby assured. Until this happens, the whole of humanity has a lot of work to do to rouse itself up. However, waking up is fun to do, isn't it?